Welkom in my Afrikaanse klas. Ons is amper klaar met die lesse oor die laaste karretjiegraf. Met hierdie les gaan ons veral fokus op die ontknoping. How the story ends and everything falls into place. So that's what we're going to look at. There's our photo. You are used to that. And here is that diagram of the phases. Now, today with this lesson, we are going to focus on what happens from the climax to the end of the drama. So we're going to focus on this way down. Goed, kom ons kyk. So in this phase of the drama, problems are solved. The last elements or the last questions, the last crises are figured out. Answers are given. Motives are made clear. And in this next few slides, I'm going to try and explain that to you. So we start in the present tense. Remember, Koet and Sarah are the two grown-ups, and they are on stage. They are in this conversation. And Koet sê hy het klipbrille op. So it's talking to the fact that he can't really see. He does not understand the future. He does not understand what is happening. There's a bit of a conversation where Sarah asks him what is his age, how old he is. And he doesn't really actually know. Wanneer dit die verkiesing was, the election of 94, the person who wrote him up said something about 24th of August, and that was then his date of birth. And it's so ironic, actually, that during the time that he was in jail, having a horrific experience, het Sarah vooruitgegaan. She made progress, and she got her degree, her PhD. And all that he has to show for his life is his dream to now go and live in Tomatiestraat. And you know about Tomatiestraat, the association with Tomatiestraat, as we said in the past. If somebody says you are in Tomatiestraat, then you are actually in trouble. So is that a prediction of the rest of his life? Figuratively, literally, it's a squatter camp where he's going to try and make a living. And the new woman in his life is Anna Louw. We know from the previous lesson that Sarah was quite taken aback by the fact that he's got a new woman in his life. Not only because of his history, nie alleen as gevolg van sy geskiedenis met vrouens nie, maar ook die hele ding van, is it not time for him to put his own needs a little bit to the side and focus on his children? That is her deepest desire for him and for the kids. Because as we've seen in the previous lesson, she was very concerned about their emotional health and that they actually were not emotionally in a good place. But Koet is just focusing on his own desires, what he wants to do, and the kids must fend for themselves. He actually said it in so many words. You must go and read it. So, again, Sarah is trying to make him aware that he's got a weakness in the sense that he kills all his women. So she is warning him to be very careful. And here is this whole thing of the kids that are emotionally so not doing well. She tries to tell him that the effect of poverty and cruelty and what is the word that I'm looking for? Geweld, where people are fighting all the time, that has a huge negative impact on the development of children. And we know that from studies and conversations, that every time a kid is shouted at, something chips away from their self-esteem and their belief in themselves. At this point, there's a flashback. And it's again that scene. I quickly want to show you this, where Rockies made the stick doll, and she dressed it with lots of little pieces of cloth. Sarah helped her. And then that terrible scene where Oki comes into the scene, and he is very aggressive, and he fights with Rockies, and eventually there's this beautiful scene where Rocky says, she takes the doll and then she covers it with a piece of cloth, and she says, "She's not dead, she's just tired. Sy's net doodmoeg." Now, if you can think about what this tells us, doodmoeg. Guys, I'm falling in my own soup here, but I just want to quickly ask you to remember that whenever you use this kind of thing, doodmoeg, spierwit, intensive forms, you have to make sure that when you look at it, it looks like one word. If it's something like this, and this is usually asked in your language part of the question paper, if they can do this between those two words, they take it as two words, and then it is wrong. You won't get the mark for it. So just take care of that. Can you imagine what this child wants to convey, wat sy wil oordra, deur hierdie maakie poppie toe onder die kombers en sê sy's nie dood nie, sy's net doodmoeg. On the one hand, it can tell us that she particularly, but basically all the kids in this family unit, is so tired of the violence, of the poverty, of the insecurities. So that's a very interesting part that you can please have a look at. Then Pinkus grabs a stick and he hits this doll and he just breaks it into pieces. If you think about Rockies that sat there and that put this whole thing together, made this doll, and all of a sudden her brother comes and he destroys this little thing that she made. What do you think would the normal reaction be? Wat sou die normale reaksie gewees het? Sy sou miskien terugbeklei het, sy sou miskien kon huil, maar sy het niks gedoen, sy het net gestaan, uitdrukkingloos, without any expression, just watched it happening. And that's a sure sign of not being emotionally healthy. As daar so iets gebeur, moet jy huil of jy moet sê nee of jy moet hierdie kind was so afgestomp. She was so closed in from her emotions that she did nothing. Now, earlier on in the scene, Tuk Tuk and Tuk Tuk and Oki. Sorry, let me just get my facts right here. Tuk Tuk en Oki het tou gespring. They call it, they talk about rimslaan, because they would use a rope from the little karretjie and tie it to one of the pieces of wood, and then the other one would stand and do this with the rope, and then the second or third person will jump. I'm sure you know what it is. So they were busy doing that. And then this scene happened where Oki destroyed the doll. Rokkies was just standing there. No effect. It didn't have any emotional effect on her, or she didn't show emotion about it. The next minute, the boys invites her to come and jump rope with them. And without blinking an eye, showing any that she's upset, she went and she started jumping the rope with him. Just another sign of this no emotional experience that's coming out. She's just dead on the inside, if you want to put it like that. So they dramatized the dramatic and horrible and cruel way in which Flora, Koot's second wife, died. And they made this little song, Bobbejaan het sy vrou doodgeslaan. So it's so out of touch with the horrible reality in which they were living. Let's go on. So that was a flashback that Sarah then tried to convey to Koos. Now we're back in the present. And Sarah shows him the rest, the bits and pieces of the doll. She tells him about the crude and horrible language that the kids talk and use to one another and other people. The fact that there's no ideals, there are no dreams. In her conversation with Rokkies in the previous scene, Rokkie said that her only dream is to become a huiswerker. Soos Flora. Flora was a huiswerker. And what happened with Flora when she was still in their lives, she would work in the house of a farmer's wife or other people, and then they would give her some leftover food or a little bit of coffee or pap or sugar, and then she would bring that home. And Rokkie's ideal was to become a home domestic worker so that she can bring these little pieces of food and leftovers home to her family. So there was nothing that she wanted to be except for this. And then Sarah tells Koot that his kids are verwaarloos. We had this word previously. Says hulle is neglected and broken. And in her mind, Tamatiestraat is not the answer. And she also then again said to him, but you should think about your children. Goed, Quit was still not in the scene. She refers to die hond, donker. Now, if you can look here, there's always a dog in the picture. Now here, laat ek net gou my plek kry. Here she refers to donker, and Quit says yes, he heard that the dog died. The kids, when they came to visit him, told him that die hond se naam was Donker, darkness. He heard that Donker died. But then she said to him, they actually didn't tell you the whole truth. And then she tells him what really happened. And this is the flashback of what took place. This is one of the most upsetting scenes that I've ever come across. It is tragic. It is cruel. It tells the story of this dog that was old and that was dying, or was not far away from dying. And the little family, this was nou Ouma Mita, Pinkus, Rocky, Oukie en Tuk Tuk, was sitting in the skuiling, and Sarah was also part of this. Tuk Tuk came with the dog in his arms, and he asked if he could give the dog a little bit of the dun pap. Now that must immediately tell you where this little family is. Their money is done, finished. They are eating watery pap. The dog is hungry, and he just wants to give the dog a little bit of water. Both Pinkies, en Ouma Mita was adamant that the dog is not going to get some of the food because he's going to die in any case. And then Tuk Tuk took the dog outside this little skuiling where they were living in. And Sarah sort of had the feeling, okay, now this intense moment has been solved. But what he did then, now you must remember, Tuk Tuk's mind is not fully developed. He has got the mind of a 3-year-old, maybe. So he took the dog outside. He picked up a rock and he hit the dog. He hit the dog and basically killed the dog by hitting his head with this rock until the dog was dead. And what Sarah can remember was the angswekkende krete, cries of this child, doing what no child should ever do, and the sounds of donker. Can you imagine, can you for 1 second imagine the anguish of both this young boy and the dog, and the cries of the dog as well? It is really dark and upsetting. Okay, so this is what is explained, what the flashback is about. Now we are back in the present. And Sarah tells him what happened in this moment. What is so amazing, and I just want to quickly see let me just go back here. Yeah, let's just go quickly back to this point. What is so amazing of Sarah here, Tuk Tuk came back and he had this bloody dog in his arms. Everybody just said, get rid of it and get rid of it. And Tuk Tuk didn't realize, he just didn't understand what he did. And he was crying and he was trying to revive the dog, but everybody saw that the dog was not alive anymore. And Sarah, in her wisdom, then said to Tuk Tuk, jy moet hom begrawe. Now here you can see, again, a burial where we started with Oma Mita being buried. And Tuk Tuk, being so simple of mind, sort of tried to get the dog to come back to life. And she said to him, no, you can do a good thing for him. You can bury him. And then she said to him, you must bury him in your shirt. Now, can you imagine what that shirt looked like? It was full of blood and pieces of brain or whatever. So she said to him, take off your shirt, your top, and bury the dog in that. And then there was this conversation of where are we burying him? And Tuk Tuk then decided to bury him underneath the kariki, because he was always close to the kariki. So he took off his shirt, and Sarah, out of her bag, took a clean shirt or a top, and she gave it to him to wear. So eventually this flashback ends where Tuk Tuk is then busy burying Donker. Goed. Very sad. Now we're back in the present. And again, it is Quit and Sarah. They are in conversation. They talk about death. Having told the story now of what happened to Donker, and she asked him a question. She said to him, have you ever held somebody when they are dying? And then he can't remember how it felt when his two women, Katrein and Flora, died, because he was so out of it. He was so drunk that he actually can't remember. In this moment, when they talk about death and how hard it is to lose somebody, Sarah shares about her sister Maria that died in her arms. And even after 15 years, it's still hard for her, and she still walks around with this pain. Quit, on the other side, could identify, but he has not ever held somebody in his arms while they were dying, not even his mother. And here he confesses that he feels old and he feels he is finished. Remember, in the beginning, Oma Mita also said that, sy's klaar met die lewe. His purpose in life was taken away. While the karikis was made into firewood and the donkeys were sold, he can't use his hands anymore. So what is he going to do now? And then he tells about the time in jail where he really longed for the places in the Karoo. Remember, this is playing out in the Karoo, on a Karoo landscape. And he longs for the places where he worked. He longs for the feeling needed. He was a leader of the shearing people. He was very good at what he did. And then in jail, he had this dream-like experience where there was a little mannetjie. You must read the scene where this little mannetjie took him in a vision, a visioen. And at the end of the visioen, he realized that he is a person of the Karoo. That is where he needs to be. That's his place. And in his mind, Tamatiestraat was all that was left, where he could see his children, but they can also fend for themselves and live their own lives. Then we come to the end, the last scene of the drama. Very short. And there's something again of this whip that lives in everybody's hearts. The kids are happy to move on. They are singing and they are playful. And then Sarah takes a photo of Koot and the kids. There you can see the little family. As the kids sort of move off the stage will just then go dark, and all that you hear is this rhythmic sounds and singing from the family. And again, they are mocking with their father's existence. Again, Bobbejaan, hy het sy vrou geslaan, Baboon. He hit his wife daar ander kan die vlei on the other side of the valley with a bottle of wine. And that's how the drama then ends. Ek hoop dit maak vir julle 'n bietjie meer sin en dat julle die drama beter verstaan. Onthou, julle kan teruggaan, julle kan weer kyk en veral belangrik is julle moet die storie lees, julle moet die drama lees. Tot 'n volgende keer.